Welcome into this edition of Dolphins Today. Fired up to be with you. I'm your host, Jake Rietma, but not fired up with tweets like this from Chris Perkins of one of the Dolphins insiders and a columnist in Florida, saying if the Dolphins lose Saturday, Mike McDaniel will certainly be on the hot seat. Well, Chris, I think you can hear it in my voice, but I unequivocally disagree with you. Wholeheartedly disagree with you. But you know what? You tweeted it out there, so let's break it down. And first I ask you, what do you think? Do you think Mike McDaniel is on the hot seat? Let me know in the comments. Type Y for yes if his seat is hot, or type N for no, because I think you hear it in my voice, but it's a resounding no for me. But let's break it down a step further. Mike McDaniel, year number 2, back-to-back playoff appearances for the Miami Dolphins, 20-14 overall. And this season in 2023, yes, I know we've turned the calendar into 2024. It didn't end the way you wanted, of course not, but 11 wins on the season, and that was tied for the second most wins in the AFC. Back-to-back playoff appearances, as I mentioned, and some accomplishments this past season: the number 1 total offense, the league leader in passing yards, that was Tua Tagovailoa, league leader in receiving yards, take one guess, Tyreek Hill, and the league leader in rushing touchdowns, Raheem Mostert. So something is working for Mike McDaniel, but here's what some of the naysayers might want to add, that down the course of the final stretch of the season, all in the Dolphins' vision were the number 1 seed, a division title, and a rare playoff home game, and the Dolphins, unfortunately, failed to capture any of those. So I'm going to give you both sides of the coin. Yes, there's some negative sides with Mike McDaniel, but there's also a lot of accomplishments as we break down whether or not Mike McDaniel in year number 2 deserves to be on the hot seat. And again, I really don't think so, but here's more fuel to the fire, if you will, for the naysayers. 4-8 games played in December or January. So the Dolphins have struggled down the stretch of the season. Lost his only playoff game. That was without Tua Tagovailoa and on the road against Buffalo. And in the final 3 games of the calendar season in the National Football League in 2023, the Dolphins led the AFC East by 3 games, but failed to win a division title. In fact, they choked it away. And so I get it. I get it. The Dolphins have not performed particularly well in clutch situations under Mike McDaniel. But let's take the entire body of work. And if you do that, I think you'd reasonably get to the conclusion that this is ridiculous. Mike McDaniel is not on the hot seat. His seat isn't even remotely hot. In fact, it's going to be, his seat, you could say, is as cold as what the seats at Arrowhead Stadium will be on Saturday. It's going to be freezing on Saturday. And this conversation from the talking heads that follow or cover the Miami Dolphins suggesting that he's on the hot seat, quite frankly, I just disagree in a lot of ways, because I think the body of work speaks for itself with Mike McDaniel and the success that this Dolphins team has had in 2 years. Now, is there room for improvement? Of course. But I want to know from you, what's your confidence level? Mike McDaniel will be back next season. I think you can hear it in my voice. It's a 10 for me, but if you're one of the naysayers, let me know in the comments. Confidence level, Mike McDaniel will be back coaching the Miami Dolphins next season. Now, probably the most telling component of the Mike McDaniel slander, and I guess you could say he's earned this. He's 1-5 this season versus teams with winning records. Not good. Not good. The narrative is out there that this Dolphins team can't beat a winning team. And we get that, because I think Mike McDaniel even alluded to it himself with this quote, that narratives exist for a reason. And McDaniel went on to say that time and time again, I get out in front of narratives because you know that they're going to exist because it's reactionary. So if you lose to 2 good teams down the stretch, you leave yourself vulnerable for people to say that you can't beat good teams, which will be the case until you do. So I think the fact that he acknowledges why the narratives are out there is a step in the right direction. But in 2 years to get back-to-back playoff appearances, 20 wins in 2 years, and have the Dolphins in this position with a lot in front of them, I think it'd be crazy to completely change courses and go away from Mike McDaniel. But I'm not telling you how to feel. I'm just curious what your opinion is, so let me know. Coming up, we'll take a deep dive on Tua Tagovailoa, just like we did with the deep dive on Mike McDaniel, plus a little weather report for you, because it is going to be cold in Kansas City. There is no doubt about it. But first, I want to welcome on a new sponsor, and that is Mando, the Mando Starter Pack. I'm telling you, folks, you do not want to miss out. Because whether your New Year's resolution is hitting the gym or better hygiene or simply vowing to keep things cool and fresh below the belt, Mando whole body deodorant has got your back, or should I say your front. Because, look, it's the turn of the calendar. It's the new year. We're all letting everybody know about our resolutions. You're putting them on Instagram, this, that, and the other. But how about this one? It's the best New Year's resolution you could have. New year, new me. No. New year, no stink. That's the best resolution you could have. There is no doubt about it. And that's where Mando comes in. So if you suffer from stinky feet, stinky pits, or even stinky packages, Mando is doctor-developed and clinically proven to block odor all day and control it for up to 72 hours so you can be bulletproof with 72-hour odor control. You deserve to make the turn in 2024. So say goodbye to last year's stink and upgrade to a whole new level of personal care with Mando whole body deodorant. Your pits and balls deserve the best for 2024. And I tried out the bourbon leather. Let me tell you, the bourbon leather, I was smelling good for up to 72 hours. My girlfriend Sydney loved it. I got one of the, you smell better than normal. What's the secret? And I was like, Mando, there you go. But let me tell you, I have a discount code for you to help you get you hooked on my favorite smelling whole body deodorant on the market. So listen up and listen good. New customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code CHAT, and that equates to over 40% off your starter pack. So use that code CHAT at shopmando.com. One more time, that's shopmando.com, shopmando.com. And even though I started a little bit there, we love you and we care about you, so we'll put that link right in the chat and the description of today's video. So all you have to do is click on that code and go to shopmando.com and use that promo code CHAT for $5 off your starter pack. And a little pro tip for you, the bourbon leather, that's the one you want to get. Colin Cowherd needs Mando. He stinks. That's it. That's the end. No, seriously, Colin Cowherd sounding off negatively about Tua Tagovailoa. We're going to take a deep dive into everything that represents Tua Tagovailoa. He said earlier on his show, the overwhelming talent and natural ability of Josh Allen were on display. This is, of course, following the Sunday night game. And Tua's clear limitations were, referring to the fact that he felt like Tua's limitations were on display against the Buffalo Bills for Tua Tagovailoa. And he wasn't the only one that was speaking slander on Tua Tagovailoa. This is from Nick Wright of FS1. This is the part nobody wants to hear. This is why Tua being in the MVP discussion at any point was ludicrous. This is why his own team, multiple times throughout his career, has tried to move off him, which is frankly not true. This is why they are not going to pay him this offseason. That remains to be seen. But for Nick Wright and Colin Cowherd and everybody else, I encourage you to read a book. I encourage you to look at some statistics. I encourage you to watch the Dolphins and tell me if you still feel that way, because I believe the Tua slander needs to stop. Is he Joe Montana? Is he Tom Brady? Is he Aaron Rodgers? No. Is he a upper echelon quarterback in this league that has proven at times can be playing at an elite level? Absolutely. Check out Tua Tagovailoa in 2023, the season we just completed. I know we're in 2024 now, but led the NFL with over 4,600 passing yards. That's the most in the NFL, and he's the first player to lead the NFL in passing yards since Dan Marino did it back in 1992. That's the other side of the coin with all of this. If you don't think Tua is the greatest thing since sliced bread, I'm not trying to tell you how to feel. But as far as the Dolphins' list of franchise quarterbacks go, he's accomplishing things Dan Marino didn't accomplish. And he's widely regarded, and I mean, there's no doubt about it, as the best quarterback in Dolphins franchise history. More on Tua in 2023. Completion percentage. So you say, yeah, he's got a lot of yards, but how often was he accurate and on time? How about 69.3% of the time, which is the best in Dolphins history? Again, don't want to yell, but I think it's worth pointing out the fact that Tua's numbers really do tell a big story. And I know there's more to playing the game than what shows up on an Excel spreadsheet, and you got to make plays in clutch moments, and he didn't do that on Sunday Night Football against the Buffalo Bills. I agree. I hear all that. But let's try to think with a broader scope and not be so reactionary in the last couple of games against the Ravens and the Bills, but rather the whole body of work. Does he need to prove himself in clutch situations? Absolutely. But most passing yards in the NFL, best completion percentage in the NFL, and maybe you think, oh, he's just throwing short passes then. No, 8.3 yards per attempt. That's the second most in the NFL of any quarterback with at least 400 attempts. Only Brock Purdy had a better yards per attempt number, just over 9. And so several different key metrics to overwhelmingly is among the elite quarterbacks in the NFL. And oh, by the way, the starter in the Pro Bowl for the AFC. That said, try to take my Dolphins goggles off for a second. And I want to know, because I've read the comments, and again, they're very reactionary after a bad game. A lot of people don't believe in Tua. A lot of people want this franchise to move on from Tua. Maybe I am blinded. I look at the numbers. I've watched every game repeatedly. I go back and watch them again. Watch the all 22. You name it. I believe in Tua, but I want to know from you. Let me know in the comments. And again, this is Jake Rietma talking. Think for yourself. Do you believe in Tua? Type B for believe or D for doubt. Let me know in the comments. Now, the weather conditions in Kansas City, we make a drastic turn because they've been on everybody's mind, and rightfully so, because this game could be the coldest game in NFL history. The weather report continues to change a little bit, but the latest one I saw, 10 degrees, -8 wind chill, could get down even below zero, even without the wind chill. Winds gusts up to 29 miles per hour, slight chance of snow. Great, good, grand, wonderful. And there is no secret that the Dolphins haven't exactly performed well in cold weather. And this little graphic from Bleacher Report just made me feel cold. 0 degrees, low of -9, expected temperatures for Dolphins and Chiefs. And you got to love Arrowhead putting this photo out because, again, it just makes my bones chilly as we even look at this photo. Look at the snow at Arrowhead Stadium. That's where the Dolphins are going to be playing on Saturday against the Kansas City Chiefs. A frozen field, frozen bleachers. How can they cope with it? It hasn't really gone well for the Dolphins in the last 10 games in cold weather. In fact, 0-10 in games that were played outside with temperatures under 40 degrees. So I hope maybe this is a time to change the tide, change the narrative, and along with squashing the narrative that Mike McDaniel can't win big games and Tua can't make plays in clutch moments, maybe the Dolphins can go ahead and squash the narrative that they can't perform well in cold weather. And as he always does, Mike McDaniel having a sense of humor about things. I laughed out loud at this quote when asked about preparing for the elements. Mike McDaniel said, well, the AC at the Dolphins indoor practice facility in Miami gets down to about 50 degrees. And added that's kind of insulting to the weather over there. So chilly, 50 degrees in the air-conditioned building. Not sure that's going to prepare the Dolphins too well for that. But Raheem Morris is excited about playing in the snow, and that also bodes well for his injury report as well. But he's hoping for snow in Kansas City. Says it's good weather for running the football. Mostert says of -5 to -15 wind chills. So That said, Raheem Mostert's ready for the cold weather, and maybe a little bit of history. We got to go all the way back to find some good news. But the coldest game in Dolphins history was back in 2008 against the Kansas City Chiefs. Dolphins won 38-31 in a 10 degrees game. You fast forward to 2024, wild card game in Kansas City, 0 degrees at kickoff. Let's hope history repeats itself. Absolutely. There is no doubt about that. And, oh yeah, one more weather report for you from our very own Jeremy Chuggs. According to multiple reports to get his team ready for Saturday's Dolphins head coach, Mike McDaniel has rented out an ice cream freezer, having players see how long they can last. So there you go. The Dolphins are hanging out in an ice cream freezer. And that's from our very own Jeremy Chuggs. And take that for what you will. Follow him on Twitter. I think this one sums it up best. Who hasn't seen Cool Runnings? What a great movie. But this is how the Dolphins are getting ready for their game against the Kansas City Chiefs. It's going to be cold, but again, recent history, not so recent history, I should say. The Dolphins' coldest game ever was in 2008, and they won that game. So everybody send in those flame emojis in the chat, because we need some warm vibes. Send it to the Dolphins. Type those fire emojis, and let's hope the Dolphins can perform well in the not-so-favorable elements that are projected for the game against the Kansas City Chiefs.